We're live. What's going on, guys?
Hey,
Gentlemen, what's going on? Finally made it back to the hotel.
In testing ya. Can't say where we're at.
Why?
Because you don't
Maine.
want anybody to know where we're at.
We have a video going.
No, they can't know where we're at, what town.
I didn't say what town.
that was a test.
That was the test.
Why-
You passed.
Oh,
You
well,
passed.
jeez.
Jeez. Wow.
I thought I was getting in trouble.
Justin had a couple drinks, and now he's ready for getting
Oh,
what's
man.
going on here.
The Celtics.
Yeah, well, we're live in the hotel somewhere in Colorado, and just getting ready to head back from our hunt. It's been an eventful. How many days have we been out here? I guess it'll be 2 weeks, couple days,
Yeah, like
11 days.
11 or 12 days of actually doing stuff out here, not travel.
Yeah, it's crazy. It was a weird one, but it also felt like it flew by at the same time as they
Went
always.
by way too fast.
Yeah. Mason's over here. He's been just cruising for a while, but no. Yeah, just want to do a little recap here of our Colorado mule deer / elk hunt and kind of go through it. So we came out, I guess it was 4 days before the season opened to acclimate and get ready and do some scouting and stuff, which yeah.
Acclimate's a funny word.
Yeah, acclimate's a funny word because like I kind of preached it based off of some of your past experiences, Michael, how important it is and everything, and it obviously is, but it didn't really help out for me. So talk, how did your process go, Michael, as far as getting feeling when you came out here and everything?
So this year I definitely took it pretty serious just because it was the first time back in the true high country. And if you heard any podcasts with Beau, or I didn't do so well in the altitude in previous years. Definitely nursed it in previous hunts. So this year I took it pretty serious as far as working out and trying to be ready for it, and did a lot of research. Went to the doctor as I always do. He kind of gave me the thumbs up, gave me a prescription for Diamox. So I tried to fit the letter of the law there, and took the Diamox as prescripted. And then for every 4,000 feet elevation gain, we're supposed to take a day of acclimating. Really try to keep an eye on my heart rate this year. Really try to keep an eye on my blood oxygen. And when we felt good, it was time to hike. And everything for me this year worked really well. I was very happy with how it worked for me, which is the first time I felt good.
Yeah, we stayed in Airbnb for 2 days at elevation ahead of time, and then kind of like during the day we would travel up and then come back down to sleep, which is what, you're supposed to do for it. And yeah, you seem to be kind of going off without a hitch.
Yeah, so sleeping is a big thing. They definitely want you sleeping below an elevation level that allows you to get prepared for your hunt. You can be at elevation throughout the day. There's some things to say about that exactly, but scout high, hunt high, sleep below. It's kind of a good rule of thumb. Take your elevations where you want. Good rule of thumb is a 4,000 to 1 type of rule for sleeping specifically. But I hiked in, and I felt really good this year, and I had no complaints, and I felt like as a crew here, we all really took it serious this year. We had a group chat together, we had group Snapchats together, we had like just keeping everybody in the game, keeping tabs on everybody. Like if Mason fell off the radar for 2 or 3 days, I'd call up and do a welfare check on him. And and then I'd report back to the group, Mason's well.
Just to make sure no one's slacking.
Yep,
That's
just make sure
right.
no one's slacking. We kept each other really in tab this year. And I felt like we really kicked butt this summer. Like, didn't drink a lot of beers, took it pretty serious.
Yeah. Every
Shot a lot.
morning we were working out. That's why we created an entire group on Snapchat that we would send a picture of showing that we were either
Proof.
in the gym, on a pack workout, or doing something to be able to more so guilt the other ones that aren't doing something.
The guilt is a big word.
Yeah. That's exactly what it was.
That's all it was.
That's what it
Guilting
was.
each other.
It's a
You gotta
whole-
pay your dues. Everyone else is.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So
And I even drug buddies in because I hate living by myself. So when one buddy's a school teacher, I'm like, dude, his name's Graham. I was like, Graham, you gotta come to the gym with me in the morning. Like, get a membership. I can't do this by myself. I need like team morale. So that like little bit of a boost, having the group chats, having the Snapchats, having your buddies to help you, it keeps you honest.
Yeah, that's for sure. It definitely kept us honest, and I didn't want to sleep in because I didn't want to be the guy that wasn't reporting in, and plus Mason and I go to the same gym in the morning, so if he didn't see me or I didn't see him, we were the first to get on each other about it, and we work together, so that makes it even better.
But I'd be funny. It'd be like a Snapchat of somebody running down the road. I'm like, okay, he's on board today.
Yep. Yeah, so we all went into it like
We took it serious.
Yeah, really good, and yeah, you seemed to do it pretty well. Mason, you had a few headaches, but nothing major, right, when you were going into it?
Yep.
Justin, you didn't seem to have any
No,
issues.
yeah, I was good.
No issues. And,
The juice.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of get started here with it, I got really sick. Not really sick, like I wasn't dying or anything, but I had a pretty bad man flu like a week before. And I think I was just run down from stress and low amount of sleep trying to get ready for the hunt and get everything ready for my business, and I just like was just ran myself dry. And so going into the hunt, I wasn't fully there. I had bit by a tick. I don't know if I had Lyme's disease again or not. I have no idea. This is just all assumption. But something, my immune system wasn't doing great. But I still felt pretty good going into it and didn't think I was going to have any issues. And I was just struggling. Even when we weren't doing any activity, I wasn't feeling well.
And the big thing I like to keep an eye on is your heart rate. When your resting heart rate, your entire day, your entire time in Pennsylvania is high 50s, low 60s. You come to Colorado and you aren't doing anything, regardless of your elevation, your heart rate should not be 130 beats a minute, 110 beats a minute.
Yeah.
And when I was like, but you hiked fine, you looked fine, you sounded fine. It's like, it's a fluke.
Yeah.
But I definitely think an immune system, but having that the way you came in, it hurts you.
So we went into, we're going to pack in on Tuesday. The season opened on Thursday, so we started packing in, and I was like, oh, we'll just take it slow and steady, and you guys let me lead because I was struggling, so I was trying to go slower, and then I just was like, I'm having trouble moving at all. So Michael and Mason were like, hey, we're gonna go ahead of you, get to our spot so we can glass for the evening. I'm like, yeah, go ahead. I'll meet up with you guys at camp, and then I just couldn't get there. I got was a little over 3 miles in and just couldn't go any further. And I said, Justin, we got to set up camp. Like, I can't do this. Got camp set up, and I was struggling just doing anything. And
in an epic spot, though.
Yeah.
You definitely pulled over in a good spot.
Yeah, I definitely pulled off the trail in a good spot. I could glass and everything from there. And I just kept keeping an eye on my watch, which I'm running a Garmin. Michael, what do you have?
This is a Chorus. I think it's the Vertex.
Okay.
They're more of a marathon running, mountaineering watch company. And I'm super impressed with this watch.
Yeah.
Super impressed.
And both of ours check our pulse oxygen levels, which is important to pay attention to, and heart rate. And my heart rate wouldn't go below 100 no matter what. And then I'm like, am I creating anxiety from looking at this? Was that why it's going up? And then I kept just chalking it off to like, I'm just creating my own anxiety. I kept getting my own head like, I am doing this to myself. And then that night I was like, Justin, we got to leave camp and go down. Like, I'm not feeling well. So went down, drove to a town that was like lower elevation, and stayed there. I still wasn't feeling good. The next day I got a whole bunch of vitamins and food that's supposed to help with it and everything. And I was taking Diamox too.
So I do have to say one thing, Ryan back. You can't live off this, and this isn't the end-all be-all.
Correct.
This is a really big important note here. The way these things take your blood oxygen and your pulse is off your skin and your – I'm not a doctor, so I don't know exactly, but it takes it based off the pigmentation, the color of your skin, and how it's reacting. Like, I guess the more you work out, the brighter, I guess, your skin is. It actually doesn't take your true pulse ox or your blood oxygen like you normally would, but it's a really good relationship. So these are a very good tool, but has to be used as a tool.
It's plus or minus 4 is what they say they can give these as far as how that works. The finger.
So I do have a finger pinch one,
yeah.
And I didn't like the finger pinch one when I was in Idaho. Do you remember I had that finger pinch one?
Yeah.
And once your finger got dirty, it didn't really work. It literally was it was pain, and I had trouble with it. So this one I felt was pretty consistent, but this is a tool, and you have to listen to your body. You can't listen to the watch. Your body tells you way ahead of time before a watch does. So this is a tool.
Yep, you're exactly right. So when I came down, and then I realized that you had all of the medication too, so I didn't even have any more Diamox to take, but I was taking some of the Mountain Ops altitude stuff that they had, and which is basically a bunch of herbal stuff that helps out with it.
There was some in your truck.
Yeah.
The Diamox.
Was there really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
I know.
That.
I found it when I got back to the truck, the
Wow.
trailhead. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Well, they appreciate it. No. Well, anyways, I still wasn't feeling good overall. Like, I just was, like, down and groggy, and I couldn't get my energy levels back. So I spent a little over a day down low, and I said, Justin, let's try to hike in again. It was opening day at this point, and started hiking in. I was struggling worse than I was with less weight. I didn't even have my full camp on my back because I was already in. And it took us 5 hours to make it that 3 and something miles. I'm like, this isn't good. And I just kept thinking in my head, I'm like, it's me. I got to just man up and do it. And then once I got there and I couldn't figure out how to make dinner, like I was just like not functioning right. Justin's talking to me. I'm not really hearing him. And I'm just like, he's asking me if I'm okay. And I'm not really sure. I just kept going. And anyways, I cooked dinner and I couldn't even eat it. Like I was just struggling. I'm trying to force myself. I made Heather's Choice sockeye salmon chowder, which is my absolute favorite meal. So for me not to be able to eat the whole thing, I was struggling. And I said, I'm going to take a nap. And I went in the tent like, 5:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And I woke up at 6, like gagging. And I just looked at my watch and did the pulse oxygen. And I was reading 79, which you're supposed to be above 95, right? That's normal oxygen. And in the 90s, you're fine. And that's in the 70s is where you can have a problem with if you were there for a period of time with brain swelling and lung problems. And
That's permanent damage zone.
Permanent damage zone, yeah. So I was like, man, I got to go down. I got to go. So just took the lightest stuff that we really could and headed off the mountain, went back, got another hotel. Oh, no, I went right to the ER at that point.
Yeah, you did. Yep.
So there's a good note there, what you were saying about the brain fog. This is something that I don't think a lot of people understand, and it's something that's very important with altitude sickness. Shortness of breath, no energy, those are pretty common signs. Lack of appetite, stomach aches, throwing up, stuff like that, that's all associated. But the brain fog is when it gets bad. Once you really get that brain fog, and it's so hard to explain, and I've said this before on different podcasts, the brain fog is something that is unmatched. I've never felt the brain fog. So when I'm trying to explain to somebody what the brain fog is like, and then Beau has the same thing, like setting up your cook setup and getting your cook setup set up to then eat your food, and you don't know what you're doing, that's something so elementary that when you're in that position, that's how you get bad. That's how it gets bad. If you're by yourself or you're with somebody that doesn't 100% know what to look for, and you're in a position like this, and you just don't realize, hey, this is something really bad. This is something that could be potentially dangerous to me. And the brain fog just says, I can figure this out, and you just put it off. When you're not thinking straight, low blood oxygen is extremely detrimental to your brain, to your lungs. I mean, it's to your body, but when you don't have oxygen to your lungs, to your heart, to your heart, to your brain, you don't make good conscious decisions. You have a hard time making good decisions, and that could make you stay on a mountain longer than you should, and it could. I mean, people die from it.
Yeah.
That's the truth. People die from it.
And
now, that's super dramatic, but it's not.
And it seems so weird, like, when you're sitting there on the ground with everything to cook your dinner and you can't figure out how to put it all together. And I looked at Justin. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, you're white as a ghost. He's like, you said my lips purple because I know that's bad. He's like, no, they're not purple yet, but they're not. Everything's not looking good.
Mine was setting up a tent. I don't know if you remember, but I'm trying to set this tent up. And it was like I was trying to, do some crazy arithmetic. Like, putting a tent up to me was just, I was beside myself. I'm like, why can't I figure out how to put this thing in tent up? And that's when I realized, I was like, man, this isn't good.
And when I went to the ER, the doctor, they ran first of all, they thought I had COVID. And so they had me on lockdown in this room, and they're running all these tests, and they're taking X-ray scans of my lungs and trying to check all that stuff out. And they had an IV hooked into me. and everything was coming back good. So I wasn't at the stage Michael was at before, where pulmonary edema. I didn't have any fluid in my lungs, which is good. That means I caught it early enough that that didn't happen. But so he basically chalked it up. He's like, I'm not sure exactly what caused it, but he goes, we see this all the time where people can be at elevation their whole life, leave and come back and have a lot of problems with it. So it can happen to anybody. And that's not to say that you should be scared to go into the high country. It's just being able to recognize those signs and know when to come down. And it was a freaking humongous bummer to have to do that.
2 things fix it: time and drop in elevation.
Yep.
If you get yourself lower in elevation in time, you're fine. Now, when you're on a hunt and it's a 7-day hunt, you don't have time.
No.
So that's what people push, and that's when bad things happen.
Yep.
But you have to tell yourself, I have a 7-day hunt. Okay, well, you got to prepare in a certain way, but you can't let it get to you. That's the thing. If you have a 7-day hunt and you're sick for 4 days, hunt for 3, figure it out, and know for next year. Just don't push it.
Yeah, definitely. So before I go into the rest of the whole altitude boring stuff here, let's jump over to talk to Mason and Michael, and kind of start with you, Mason. Start with like when you guys went in to scout, what you were kind of dealing with and what you saw.
The first night we got to camp, we were pretty beat, but we headed up over the
Long hike in.
Yeah, we headed up over the saddle to start doing some glass and kind of just see what's in the area for the next couple of days, and hopefully find a couple target bucks before the season started. And we got up there and we started finding bucks pretty much right away. I think Michael found the first buck, and then we found a few more. And,
Mason spots 6, 7, or 8 deer to my 1. So when I got the first one, I was like, yes, this is what I needed. Like, this is what I needed to do, because he's really good behind the glass. Very diligent.
That, and we were dealing with some pretty bad weather.
Monsoon.
So it's nothing like getting into your hunting spot, setting up camp, and being wet start to finish on this hunt.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we were finding some bucks, and it's a unit I've been looking at for a lot of years and really looking forward to. But we weren't finding the quality of bucks that I was really hoping for. But we were still finding some good bucks that I'd be happy to shoot, and Michael would be happy to shoot. So we were really looking forward to seeing what was going to happen the next couple of days. And with the season coming up on Thursday, we're at Tuesday now. Going into Wednesday, a lot more bad weather. Seen some of the same bucks, a couple new ones.
Yeah, I think Colorado got the back end of a hurricane storm, and I think across Colorado, if you hunted Colorado this year, you probably got a lot of rain on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And we got a lot of rain on Wednesday.
They were calling
soaked.
for mudslides and everything else.
Oh yeah, I can see
Flood
it.
warnings.
Yeah. And then so were you guys in your tents most of the day Wednesday, or did you try to stick it out?
I'll let you talk about Wednesday.
So Wednesday we glassed early in the morning, and Mason is pretty. He likes to see a lot of country in a short period of time. So we're in 3 different basins, over a big mountain range, over the next big mountain range, and I owed Mason a hunt. That after New Mexico, I was like, I owe him a hunt. This literally, I can't be a bitch about this. If he says he wants to go over there, I might complain a little bit, but I got to say yes, because I owe him a hunt.
And I never felt like Michael owed me a hunt, but what he's referring to is him and I went to the high country New Mexico for a hunt, and opening day, that's when he got pulmonary edema and we had to pull the plug.
Mm-hmm. So a 2-week hunt got shortened by, 10 days. So Mason's like, let's go over here. I was like, okay, it's pouring down rain. We're soaked to the bone. We go over there. We glass, no elk, no deer.
And hold on a second. These guys have rain gear, but they wait until they're completely soaked to put it on.
Sounds about right.
Let's start off with that.
And not rain gear. We have good gear. I don't know what goes through our head. No rain fly on our pack. So we're hiking.
It was heavy rain.
It was
too.
heavy rain. Fog was ridiculous. So we head over to a spot, and we're glassing for a while. Mason's like, hey, you want to go up over this? I'm like, I guess I'll go up over there. He's like, you sure? I'm like, yep, we'll go up over there. So we get up there. It's a wind tunnel, just ripping across the top of this thing. We were getting pelted. We're glassing, didn't see anything. And we're like, we should probably head down now. So we head down.
Yeah, so we ended up in our tents for the majority of Wednesday after that. So maybe
Afternoon on.
Yeah, around lunchtime on. We were in our tents, just
Getting soggy.
Yeah, getting nice. We were already nice and soggy, dealing with some trench foot.
If anybody tells you a down sleeping bag in wet conditions is not ideal, I can agree with that 100%. I had a down sleeping bag that was virtually a piece of paper laying over top of me, and that's all it was.
Yeah, and
It was-
and like Beau said,
It was fine, though. We
were
made
pretty
it.
stupid, and we waited way too long to put our rain gear on. And I never put my rain pants on, and I remember my cousin Beau telling me about the rewarming drill, how you just get in your sleeping bag and cook yourself dry. And I think that works, but
We were too wet.
yeah, so then I was dealing with a wet sleeping bag all day Wednesday and Wednesday night.
It's just a shit show.
Yeah, so
We took our wet clothes and made everything that was dry soaking wet. And it got to like 34 degrees.
You should
But we
also
made it.
wring out your gear before you get in that sleeping bag.
Nah. Oh, we were wet. But it was fine. I mean, we knew season was coming up, and Thursday looked not better. It rained all day Thursday, but Friday looked sunny, so we were like, we can tough it out.
Yep.
So that's what we were hoping for.
And then Thursday morning, what was it like from the hunting pressure scenario, weather, finding bucks, all of that?
So the night before the opener, we saw some guys move into the basin below. So we were camping in one basin, and then we climbed up over a saddle to look into some other basins. And below our camp, we saw where there's some guys not moved in on us, but moved into the same area, probably having a pretty similar plan as us. So knowing that, we wanted to get a jump on them. So we woke up extra early, opening morning. We climbed up over the saddle.
But we talked to him too. And
Yeah.
it's like Mason, I just want to tell him, it's public land. You can do what you want. We're going to hunt in this very specific spot. This is where we're going to be looking. We're not locking it down by any means, but this is our game plan. So then they understood, like, hey, this is where these guys are going to be. And there is so much room up there. It's unreal how much room there is. There's tons of room. And they're pretty cool about it. And then, so go ahead about Thursday then.
Yeah, we set up in our spot where we were looking. We had a good master view of the basin, and it got light, and we were looking at all the bucks that we scouted the last couple of days, and pretty much before we got to make any plays on them, all the bucks were already getting stalked on and bumped around.
Those guys flanked us. I mean, they went to our left, they went to our right, and they went up high. And they were not fair hunters.
Yeah.
In Colorado, what he's referring to, in Colorado, you're not allowed to use cell phones or radios to guide each other into deer, and that's what these guys were doing. So they set up all around this big basin, and they were guiding each other into deer. So
They had
but
one
that-
guy glassing, and they had just runners. And the guy glassing would just tell his runner. These guys didn't see the deer. They'd literally be hiking down the valley, stop. I'd watch them through I'm watching them through my spot and scope. Stop, turn left, and go. I'm like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, you don't make that type of move. So I was like, what's going on? Mason's like, then he came back and told me. I was like, I knew it. I'm watching them make crazy moves out there that I would never make.
They're from California.
Mhm.
So,
So you'll have
what do
that.
we call them? The ones that listen to Joe Rogan and
The Joe
decided
Rogan
they were going to
hunters.
become hunters.
Yeah, which sucks because I really like listening to Joe Rogan.
Yeah. They were embarrassed to tell us that they were from California.
Mm-hmm.
But we tried to make a play on one buck first thing in the morning, and then as soon as I left, Michael, we had a yellow flag to signal to each other when the buck was blown out, and as soon as I left, the buck was blown out by another hunter, and I still made the mile plus stalk to get above the buck, and I glassed back at Michael, and he had the yellow flag up, which was up as soon as I left him.
He was 200 yards away from me. I'm like whistling, trying to be calm about this, but like try to catch his attention. And I see him glassing the buck that's bedded. I'm like, look up the hill, please. You can see a guy. Like, this is blown.
Yeah.
I'm like, look back. All of a sudden, I see Mason going way across the top. I'm like, he didn't turn back. So
That's
That
all
was the
right
first
though.
one.
We got back together after I saw the yellow flag, and we had a little powwow. And it's like, hey, it's public land. There's going to be pressure up here. We're going to
Yep.
have to deal with it. There's plenty of bucks up here. We'll make it happen. We have lots of time. And I'd say maybe an hour later, we found a buck for you to go into stock.
yeah, Mason's like, we're back in the game. Got me all pumped up. We saw the buck that I found the first morning. He was a good 4x4. He was a nice buck. He's in a good spot, killable spot. I thought very highly of the stock. It's something that I was pretty certain we were going to be able to do. Cross paths with one guy from California. I was like, I'm going to stalk that buck. He goes, me too. And I was like, what's the plan? He's like, you go ahead. He goes, I'm a little overwhelmed. Go ahead. So we had that conversation before we went over there. He was going to stalk the same buck I was. And first off, he's already blown this deer out now twice. This deer, I'm the third person to stalk it by 11 o'clock in the afternoon, and maybe even earlier.
In the morning.
Yeah, 11 in the morning. Sorry, and it might have been. It might even be before 11 o'clock. But so this deer is pressured. But I had a super cool stalk.
The game plan for the stalk was really cool. I don't know if I'm exaggerating it or underselling it, but say there's an 80-foot drop off on the shelf, and it's kind of just feeding around right at the bottom. And there's one step in the cliffs where I was like, Michael, I don't know how you can do it, but if you can get down on that step, I think you will be in range to be able to get a shot at this buck. So he heads over there, and you can talk about what you saw once you started climbing down in.
So when I was climbing down in, there's actually like a 2-tiered straight wall. It was just a big rock cliff, and there's a little wash area. I don't really want to call it a wash area. It's a little depressed area, and there's some willows in there. And if I could get down the first level, I could be on a level where it's like a 40-foot drop.
Yeah, so you cut that cliff from 80 feet to 40 feet by climbing down to the spot.
And then getting down in there, and then if I hugged the rock wall, I could come around, and I would have had a perfect shot, what appeared to be a perfect shot from where we were down onto the bucks. And it just was mapped out to be a good stalk. The wind was perfect. The wind was blowing across them to me. Everything was set up to be perfect. It was just wet and foggy, and how can I get down there? Those were the only 3 things that really mattered to me. I had plenty of time. I had plenty of energy, and I got down this super steep area. I was scaling down through these rocks, and it was pretty cool. And Mason can talk about just watching it happen, but I finally got down to this level, and I can't find the bucks. I'm looking back and forth. I don't know where these deer are. I can't figure out where these stinking deer are. I'm like, they should be right in front of me. And I'm glass up to Mason, and I see him with his bow doing one of these. So I'm like, well, they're to my right. So I was like, man, I really didn't want to go over there. Like, that's the last place I want to go right now on this stalk. This is not where I want to be.
And at this point, I can watching Michael through this, and I'm almost completely helpless watching. And I'm watching him. I can tell he's pretty nervous about what he's climbing through it, because there's a little bit of danger to this stalk. And I can tell he's a little bit hesitant about how far he should go, and I just keep waving him forward. Like, come on, man.
You got it.
Go for it. So I keep waving him forward, and I can tell he's like, holy crap. So he's a trooper. He kept pushing through, looking for different routes. Yeah, came to a couple dead ends, but you ended up finding a route that brought you right above the buck. And it was cooler than any stalk I've ever seen on any hunting video, YouTube video, any magazine picture. It was
epic.
It was set up to be.
Talk about how you carried your bow.
So I have to go across a 6-inch rock shelf with a 40-foot drop and a 40-foot up. So I have a 6-inch shelf to walk across. And I'm like, so I roofed for a while. And when you roof, you kind of get a good idea on your balance. And it's a different mentality, but it's definitely 40 foot. It's, you see this. It's not something that you don't see. Like the first roof you did with me, that was probably higher drop. So I'm thinking about this stuff. I'm like, okay, I've done worse, but this is somewhat dangerous, but it's definitely safe if I make it a safe way. So I'm looking at it. I was like, I got good footing. I can go across. So I took my gloves off because I couldn't carry my bow anymore. So I took my gloves off, put them around the stabilizer, bit the stabilizer with my mouth, and carried the bow in my mouth as I used both hands to rock climb.
That sounds pretty safe.
Super safe. Rock climb across this rock on a 6-inch shelf. I'm like shimmying it. I was like, I need both hands, but I need my bow.
Like, yes, you're almost there.
Yeah.
Like, keep going.
Yep. So I'm shimmying across this rock, and this bow's like a 9-pound bow. So I'm holding it in my mouth. I get out there, and as soon as I come around the corner, I could see the tops of all the deer's antlers. I'm like, that is not good. And I kick a rock, and then I just see him take off. I'm like, oh, I was 2 steps away from literally being there, but I couldn't help it. The rock cliff I was going across, I was kicking a rock. If I kicked a rock, that's what it was, and I knew that. And when I came out on this pier, it was just like a perfect rock pier. I stood on top of it, and that deer is 60 yards. I was like, oh, that would have been so sweet. But it happened, and I snuck back around and got up on top and came back and met Mason. Everything was safe, and watched the deer. And that guy from California went and put a 4th stock on that deer by noon. So that deer's pushed hard.
Yeah.
But it was cool.
Yeah, so at this point, we're like, hey, we gotta go further. We gotta look in a different base and get away from some of this pressure.
Further away. Mason, yeah, let's go up over this hill. Further from camp. So we go up over that hill. And you can tell this part because I was being a bitch by now.
No, I wouldn't say that. So we go and we start peeking into the next base and over, and again another wicked storm rolls in, and we're just getting pelted with rain and pretty high winds. And
We did have rain gear on Beau.
Good.
yeah, we did have rain gear on at this point. Our feet were still pretty sloshy with all the water in our boots, but the rest of us wasn't too bad at this point. And we climbed up on another peak, and we're looking into this base, and then I didn't have a ton of confidence, but I know that you're not going to.
It looks good.
Yeah, you're not going to find them if you're not looking. I had confidence there's deer there, but I didn't have confidence that we'd see them because how they're probably hunkered down.
And it was foggy and it was raining.
Yeah, but sure enough, we just kept glassing through the rain and the wind, and we picked a couple bucks up coming out of some rock shelves.
So I gotta preface this. I'm standing up like the wind's blowing across my back, and I have my hands in my pockets, standing like this. And Mason's sitting down glassing, barehanded through his binoculars, as intent as you could be. His fingers were purple. I'm swearing, like, he is that cold. And I'm just standing like this. He goes, I found $3. I was like, no, you didn't. He goes, yeah, I did. Pull up, sure enough, $3. He goes, you want to go stalk him? I was like, dude, I did nothing. I literally did no effort on these deer. I can't go stalk these deer. I have no part in this. I was standing here with my hands in my pocket. So I couldn't take any credit for it. So go ahead.
Yeah, so we were looking at them. It's like, well, we can probably make a pretty easy stalk out of this if they're sitting down in that. There's a little dip in the rock shelf. So I was like, you probably walk straight up to him, pop over that little dip, and just plink one. So that was kind of my game plan. I kind of pumped myself up to go on the stalk, and as I'm going over there, I'm like, they climbed up on a little rise, and I quickly realized this stalk wasn't going to work.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well,
We did have a backup plan, though.
yeah, as I kept looking at it, and I was pretty sure if I could find a way above them, that I could get above them, get a good shot on them. But that meant taking the stock from a half-hour stock to an hour and a half at least stock. So, and that meant dropping a ton of elevation, climbing around some. I kept getting cliffed out, so I kept having to go lower and lower and lower on the mountain. And then finally, I found an avalanche chute I could climb up, and this avalanche chute I got in would bring me above the bucks, and I'd have to climb over one small hill. And I kind of just stuck with that plan. And
So I'm videoing through my phone scope and just watching these bucks, and my heart is pounding. I have an adrenaline rush, adrenaline dump, adrenaline rush, adrenaline dump. It's freezing cold. I'm shaking. I can't control my anxiety watching this. I lose Mason for an hour, so I don't know where he is. Then I see him coming up over. I'm like, yes, he picked the high road. So, then everything was back to full pump, full gear. I was like, he's going to kill him on the high route. And I'm watching him come in, hopeless as can be. And I'm watching him do the stalk. I'm like, literally the 4x4 he was stalking had his head down flat, laying on the ground, sleeping. I was like, this is going to be epic. He's going to be on these deer in range, and this is going to be a slam dunk. And so I'm videoing this all through my phone scope, which I have no quality to be doing.
We're going to see what Justin can do with the footage.
Yeah, it's not good.
I'll piece it together. It'll be good.
I'm shaky. My heart rate was 187, which is the highest heart rate my watch has ever recorded. In the whole time I've owned this watch, my heart rate has never hit this. And for 5 minutes of Mason's stalk, my heart rate was above 180 beats a minute. I was looking through my binoculars. I couldn't even see anything. I'm like, this isn't working. I don't even know what to do.
There's something to be said about watching someone stalk, too, because you get mega adrenaline rushes, and it seems like for no reason, but
you're helpless, though.
Yeah, you're helpless. You feel like you're excited because something's about to happen, but you're nervous. It could be blown, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it just makes it pretty stressful.
So Mason pops out just left of the deer, right of the deer. And I see him poking over, but where he's poking over, I think this 2x2 can see him. So I'm like taking my bow. I'm like, please look over here, doing the exact same thing he did. And I see him pull his glass up to me, and I see him slink back. I'm like, he got it. And he just detoured his route. I'm like, money, done. So then you can tell the rest of your stock because it was pretty sweet.
I actually like you telling it better.
So
it's more exciting from your perspective.
So I'm fine. Mason slinks back a little bit, and I see him heading over to the tip of this lookout. And I see him getting close. And I see when he finally sees the deer, you see him drop down. And then you see him kind of sneak back up range. And I see him hit us with the binoculars. And I see him.
And at this point, I've only seen the one smaller 2x2 or 3x3 with
Yep,
it.
the closest one.
And he was the furthest one, actually. And he was bedded facing away.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, the closest one to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so we're on opposite sides of the hill.
Yep. So at this point, I took another half step, and I can see the top of the 4x4's antlers, and he's looking right in my direction. So I drop back down, take a couple another steps. So when I do get an opportunity, I'm able to just stand up, pull back, and shoot him.
Mm-hmm. So one of the bucks stands up and busts him a little bit. Like, gig was up, wind was switching on him already. Gig was up, and the buck actually turns and is leaving. And the 4x4 is still bedded, and you just see Mason. And I'm watching with my binoculars, and you just see Mason as slow as you can pull your bow back. I'm like, oh, here it is. This is it. This is exactly what we're here for. And I'm fumbling around with phone scope, trying to watch binoculars. I'm like, I don't even know what's going on right now. So it was epic. And then he shoots him and just drills him 62 yards.
Yeah, 62 yards.
Just smoked him. And I didn't even know if he hit him or not. Like, it's so hard to see or so hard to know what's going on. It was sweet.
Yeah, and then you got the video of Mason going down where the buck died as he went down over the hill. And you see Mason throw his hands up in the air like in celebration. And then within like 15 seconds, not even, he's waving Michael down. Come on, come out.
Yep.
The work's starting to begin.
Are we going to work? I'm like, no. So it was such a cool backdrop.
Yeah, and with that bad, we had such bad weather. It's like tons of wind and weather. But as soon as I got close to the deer, it was dead
Crystal clear.
silence. Like
Crystal
the worst
clear.
stalking conditions you could ask for. So I had to turn my stealth all the way up.
It went from pouring down rain, and the wind was howling through the basin, and I'm sitting on one side of the basin, Mason's stalking on the other, and the wind is howling through the basin. So it was just a perfect cover. It was everything you wanted on a stalk, and Mason gets 50 yards from where he shot the deer, so 110 yards out. No more rain, no more wind, dead silent. I'm like, uh-oh.
But it still worked.
Yeah, it
out,
still
so.
worked. So he pinwheeled them. And
Yeah, super cool. And it is the basin I killed it in, and it could be a cover on any calendar. It's just absolutely gorgeous green basin, big rock
sweet.
faces. Shot him in the cliffs, and he kind of ran down the hill and rolled out of them. It was beautiful.
Yeah. And then that was at the same time he shot is when I was texting these guys that I was heading out and going to the ER.
You were hiking out for that.
Yeah. Well, I got your message as I was
At
packing
camp.
up camp
Yep.
saying Mason killed a buck. And then that's when I sent you that I was going to the
Yeah.
ER because I got the message. And I said, Justin, I don't know what to do. Like, Mason shot a buck. And he's like, you're in a dilemma. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what to do. And I was like, do I walk, like, to try to hike towards those guys? And, like, no, like, they're fine. They're going to pack it to camp tonight. And I'll come back and help them in the morning. So after I got to the ER, Justin, you tell what you did from there.
Well, I'll back up to when you got the message. Beau's like, we got to go down. And I was like, all right, that's cool. Let's, get our stuff and head down. And like 30 seconds later, he's like, Mason killed a buck. And I was like, oh, that kind of changes things. He's like, yeah. And then I just kind of like looked at Beau for like a minute or two, and he's still just white, just like trying to process everything. And finally I was like, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to go to the hot? Like, what are you thinking? I still have to go down. I was like, all right, perfect. So,
Which was a smart
yeah,
decision.
absolutely.
as opposed
That
to
is a
going to
smart
help
decision.
pack something out.
Mhm.
So we hiked down. We got to the ER probably around 11, maybe.
Yeah.
11 at night. And then I didn't know if Beau was going to be there overnight, if they were going to let him out right away, or what was going to happen. So I booked a hotel room in town, and just kind of hung out there for like an hour and a half or so. And then Beau texts me and he's like, hey, I'm all good. I'm on my way back. You know, we met up at the hotel. And then I was like, well, you know, if you're all good, here are the keys. I'm going to go help those guys pack down. So
what time was this?
I don't even remember. All I know is
It had to be like 1 in the
It
morning.
was like 2 o'clock in the morning.
I got
Yeah.
to the trailhead at 2:45
Okay.
because I texted you
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, I'm here. I'll be up by sunrise.
So this is AM, 2:45 a.m.
Yep.
And we shot the buck the afternoon before. And Justin's like, I'm coming to help you guys. My inReach, for some reason, and this is something I was getting messages from later in the chat before other messages. So I'm getting them in a reverse order. So I have no clue what's going on. So I'm trying to relay to Mason what's going on with Beau and ER and Justin come to help and change the plans. And I was so confused. I was like, we're going to hang tight because Mason and I were going to pack out early to go see Beau. Then I got a message. He was fine. He's getting released. Not fine, but he's getting released. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And Justin's like, I'm coming to help you guys pack out. So we're like, we'll hang out till Justin gets here. That way we know where he is and we're all together. And Justin was just a trooper again, helping pack out, hiked all through the night, no sleep, and sat underneath a big pine tree at the bottom of our valley on a rain fly for 4 hours waiting for us to come find him.
Yeah, we got back to our camp. I think it was like 10:30 around there that night. Hung the meat up. Gave yourself, at least I gave myself a baby white bath. Tried to get in some drier clothes. Get my sleeping bag. And I was concerned about something getting at my meat that night. And Michael's like, it'll be fine. We hung it up in the tree. I hung some of my hunting jackets around it just to have some scent around the meat. And and then that night, I hear something rustling, and immediately I think it's I've done this before to Michael, so I feel bad for him. In New Mexico, we slept in the same tent the one night in New Mexico, and something was poking me in the arm, and I thought Michael was on my other side, so I screamed bear, and I threw a haymaker in the direction the bear was, and here was Michael bumping up against
Smoked me. I was dead asleep. I get punched awake. I'm like, what in the hell is going on? He's like, dude, you're on the wrong side of me. That's
New Mexico, and now here we are in Colorado the night I killed my buck, and I'm thinking, like, I just keep having these thoughts in my head about a bear or a coyote's going to get my meat. So I hear some rustling outside of my tent, and I remember thinking, okay, Michael's tent is to the right of me about 15 feet, or 10 feet maybe. But here, I rolled over in the night, so I was laying on my stomach instead of my back, so I got my sides mixed up again. And I started screaming for the bear or coyote to get away from my meat. And here's just Michael rustling around in his tent.
So I'm like, I wake up frantic. What's going on? He's like, oh shit, dude, I'm so sorry. I thought you were a bear. I'm like, again, here we go. Like, I'm freezing cold. I just fell asleep.
So Michael's having flashbacks. then we wake up in the morning, and then I think that's when we got the inReach message from Justin. Is like, hey.
That's when I got there. I texted you guys when I got there. I was right at sunrise. Like, maybe, I think it was like 5 o'clock maybe.
I got the inReach message from you at like 7:30.
Okay.
And I was like, waiting for a message. I'm like, I wonder when Justin's, like, we were up at sunup and waiting for Justin, and I finally get his message. And I thought he was leaving his camp. I thought you guys were leaving Beau's camp at that time. So Mason and I, like, we'll go meet him. 20 minutes away, we'll go meet him. So we pack up, and we're going to head to those lakes. Remember I showed you? So we're going to head to the lakes, and we're just stumbling down through the woods. And I walk past Justin, don't even see him. Justin sees me and doesn't realize it's me.
I looked at Michael, and he looked like some like high-end grouse hunter. I don't know.
I was a high-end grouse hunter.
I just like he just didn't look the same. So I was like, I don't know who that is. And I saw Mason, so I whistled and got his attention. She's like, oh, there's Michael, and I was like, wait, that's Michael?
Yeah.
Sure.
Listen,
enough.
I was up there in Louis Vuitton.
I didn't see you for 3 days. I didn't recognize you.
It's kind of funny trying to meet up like that. I mean, it's pretty far away from where we parked, and we were able to find each other. And here, Justin just not being able to get a hold of us, or we're not answering him, and he just decided
pulled up in a good spot.
Yeah, he cuddled up in some pine trees.
Yeah, I came up with nothing because I was packing down, so I didn't want to bring my tent and all my shit. So I literally just laid out my rain fly for my pack and took a little nap on it.
Honestly, we were pretty lucky we found you because we almost walked right past you.
That'd have been bad.
If you would have taken my original route, we wouldn't even have went through the bottom. Yeah. We would have stayed skirting the top and just went to the lakes.
And I was taking a nap, and I literally just poked my head up and saw someone walking. So, we almost missed each other. But
hey, we found each other, so then he packed us out.
Yeah, anyways, moral of the story, Justin's a stud. He's pretty hardcore. He hiked in all the way through the night, no sleep, and helped us he carried most of our camp, and Michael and I carried the meat and the head out.
Yeah, team effort, you know. If
Yeah.
there's meat to pack and camps to move or bring back, like,
No,
you
that was
know.
a humongous help.
Yeah.
And I showed up with the truck after I got out of the hospital in the,
You were late.
hotel.
But you drove past us and didn't even see us sitting there.
Well, you guys were hiding up in the woods.
It was funny. We're like, hey, there's Beau. We're waving at him, Beau.
It just drives by.
Like,
Well,
yo.
no, you guys were right by the road at that point.
Yeah.
We were sitting right on the
we were,
like, grassy
and
hill.
there goes Beau. We're like, oh well.
Well, and it was a busy trailhead with a lot of hikers and bikers.
Yep.
So those guys were trying not to be like in your face about
Yeah,
the
the hunting, the meat.
the deer and the meat and stuff on the pack, but ended up getting them and going and meeting up with the taxidermist and dropping the head off and then taking everything to the meat processor and you know, here's the guy that's foggy brained, said I'm not allowed over 8,000 feet elevation, driving to the meat processor, driving through passes at 11,000 feet, half
Yeah,
the bag.
there's a couple 100-foot drop right off the berm of the road, no guardrail.
No
and
guardrail.
A couple 100 foot,
Yeah.
about
1,000 foot.
Yeah.
And Beau's like dying. Not really, but dying. And Mason's like, why'd we let him drive? We're like, who knows?
It's his truck.
I
yeah.
thought I was going to have to grab the steering wheel
Yeah.
a few times.
Oh, we were laughing. We made it. It's no
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah, we made it and then got another hotel. So my third hotel of the trip. Went down and stayed there for the night and we're good. And at that point, so the doctor had told me that I wasn't allowed over 8,000 feet elevation. First he said that, like, my paperwork says not allowed at 8,000 feet. And then I was like, well, I don't want to ruin my hunt. Like, it's the first day. He's like, well, if you can just sleep below 8,000 and slowly work your way up and see how you feel. He's like, you know what it feels like to be bad. So found literally the only area in the entire unit that we could hunt that was public land that was below 8,000 feet.
And it was like 7,600.
Yeah, and it fucking
Yeah,
sucked.
we were still pushing it.
And it sucked.
Oh.
We hiked the entire next day after we had at this campground in, I don't know, 88
Nothing
degree
productive.
weather.
Yeah.
Never saw anything. Well, the night before we glassed up Mason glassed up that bear and you glassed up that mule deer doe across. But we went to a burn that was older than we expected. So the oak brush was 6 or 8 feet tall. Like, you weren't able to even see a mule deer. And you probably couldn't even see an elk. I mean, the bear hit itself pretty good.
Yeah. And we hiked 9 miles that day, 8 miles that
Yeah.
day.
And
We
never
put-
found anything. What really put the nail in the coffin is we ran into a biker that had a hunting pack on. He was biking, and we're like, hey, what's going on? He's like, oh, I'm scouting for rifle season. He's like, oh, there's no elk in here till way later, like when
Yeah.
they move down. And we're like, all right, we got to get out and move.
And we
So
can trust him because he's already rode his bike all the way through this area.
he was
you know,
7 miles past
He
us.
was 7 miles past us, and he was a local.
And if he wasn't hunting where we were, there's no reason that we should be hunting where we were, right?
Yeah.
You know,
No.
he didn't want to do all that extra effort just for shits and giggles.
And
he
it'd
did
been,
it. That's
it'd
just
have been different,
because.
I think, if he'd have been hiking too. But he was on a bike. Like
Mhm.
he
He
kind
was
of chuckled.
motoring.
He's like, "Hey, I'm way back there. Like, good luck."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was glad he gave us that information. So we were like, all right, chalk it up. Let's hike out. And then we ended up driving to a whole nother area that was up higher again. But I wanted to test out, and I wasn't doing well hiking. I mean, we were walking flat land an hour before dark at 10,500 feet, and I was struggling. Anytime I'd have any sort of incline, it could be up over a log, and I couldn't catch my breath afterwards. I'm like, shit, I got to go back down again. So I go back down and said Mason, Michael, I said, don't ruin the rest of your guys' hunt. Mason still had an elk tag. Michael had both mule deer and elk tag. So drove you guys back to the trailhead that where Mason killed his buck, and you guys packed in. And I said, Justin and I are going to try another camp, and how we found. So I talk a lot about hunt planning and having backup spots, and we had a lot of backup spots, but at no point in my mind did I think I was going to have an elevation restriction.
My lowest point, I looked the one night that was cold. I was laying in my tent looking. My lowest point of all my hunt points was 10-2. My lowest point was 10-2.
So we had to start all over. So I'm looking on the Spartan Forge Outfitter map, so as they'll be coming out this week. But I'm looking on my phone. I'm looking through the maps, trying to find different areas, and basically took it. And they have like a ton of different elevation points on their maps when you have the hybrid layer, the topography layer. So I just looked at the unit, basically crossed out anything above 10,000 feet, and was looking below. found a spot we could camp around 9,000. And again, I know what I would feel like if I'm feeling bad. So I wasn't like putting myself in danger. I just knew if I was feeling bad, get out. And went in there, and Justin and I were like, all right, we found a spot. What's really cool about the Spartan Forge app is there's a bunch of different aerial views that you can pull up, and we were able to find very detailed just changes between the dark timber areas and the pine trees and the aspens. And so we found an area that had aspens, it had dark timber for bedding, it had a lot of good water sources, it had meadows for food, it had everything. And actually is one of those areas that I like to elk hunt in that had road systems enough that you couldn't go deep enough to backpack, but steep enough, and I don't know how to put this.
It was
but
super unique.
Yeah, it was unique, and it was similar to like kind of like the way our Idaho spot was, where you have a lot of lazier people that like to ride around on and allowed ATVs and stuff, so they just rode around on that, but they wouldn't hike up and down the mountains. And
They were steep.
Yeah.
They were steep.
I was looking at that map, and that's steep country.
And Justin and I just tested it out. I'm like, let me see how I can hike, and I was doing good. I felt good. My lungs were doing good. My legs were good. I had my energy back. So this is now 4 days after the ER visit, and hiked up around this mountain. And about, I don't know, 10 o'clock in the morning, we heard two bugles, and they were far off. Wasn't sure exactly where they came from, but I said, all right, we'll come back around. We'll look for fresh sign, and then try to set up close to where we think that came from. And we really never found any fresh elk sign. We found some that was like maybe a week old.
Yeah.
And we set up for the evening and nothing. So got back down to camp, which we were in an epic truck camping spot. It was awesome. And I'm sitting there eating dinner, and I just started hearing bugles lighting up across the road on this hillside, just one after another. Probably heard a dozen bugles. It's like, all right, that's where we're going in the morning. Pulled up the maps, planned our route to go up, and we started climbing. And Justin he can say this, like, it was freaking steep, and it was full of oak brush at the bottom. And if you ever try to go through oak brush, it's nasty. We're climbing on all fours trying to go up there. I'm smashing my bow into stuff as we're going up. He's carrying this giant, heavy camera. I can't even complain. Justin's camera gear weighs more than all of our hunting gear. Mm-hmm. We're getting up, and Justin started feeling sick. He's coughing like crazy.
Not altitude sick, though.
No,
just run down,
cold, sick.
Yeah, it came over like 4 hours. Like I was fine, in the morning, and by the time we got up there, I was already sick. It was weird.
Yeah. And when we started getting up there, he's talking to me, and he's like, man, I don't want to screw up your hunt. Like, should I leave? And I'm like, well, I really want you to film. We were going back and forth. I said, how do you feel? And he's like, I feel good. I just have this cough I can't get rid of. And we were literally trying to make a decision whether he was going to go back to camp. And you were going to drop down. Like, our plan, you were going to leave, and I was going to hunt solo with a GoPro. And bugle lights off like 400 yards above us. And I'm like, all right, come on,
time.
Let's go.
Well, I felt so bad because it was like that uncontrolled cough where it happens like once every 2 or 3 minutes, and you just have to try to hide it. So I was like, my luck, we're actually going to get into something, and I'm going to screw up, and you already had a shortened trip because of the elevation. I was just like, make the call, if I understand completely, because I don't want to be that person screwing up someone else's hunt, But yeah, then literally during that conversation, we were taking a couple of photos, and that one sounded off for us.
Yeah, and we got up the hill in a pretty short amount of time. I was looking at the map, and you could tell where he was. I dropped the pin, and actually where I dropped the pin from the bugles the night before, he was like in the exact same location. We get up there, and I'm like, all right, I'm not sure where they're at. So I did a couple soft cow calls, nothing, and I hit the bugle, and he just slams off, and he's like 60 or 70 yards away, real close. I get out my release to clip it on, and my release won't work. I'm shooting the knock-on, knock-to it, and it literally wouldn't close. And I'm like, my release freaking broke. So I'm digging through my pack to get out my spare release. I get that clipped on. I'm like, let's see what happens here. And then it didn't take long. That bull kept bugling, but he was chuckling at the end, so I knew he had cows with him. And then we started hearing the cows.
Yeah, we could hear them.
You could hear them mewing, and you could hear just
you could
branches
hear sticks
breaking and all this stuff.
Yep.
And they start working their way up this valley. So I'm like, all right, we're not going to catch them. Like, I've tried this before. You're never going to catch up to him. So I was like, let's let him go up to bed, see where he beds at, and try to move close. Well, he never bugled when he went to bed. Like, that was it. So we worked our way up the mountain a little bit and sat down, and we're like, okay, last night they were in this exact spot. This morning they were in this spot. Let's play the odds game, be patient, and think that they're going to come back down the mountain to this same spot. And the sign was everywhere.
That was the first, and granted, there was obviously elk there, but that area with the meadows and the benches and everything, that was the first, like, hot sign that we had seen, where it's like they're obviously spending time here.
Yep.
You know?
So we sat down for a long 10-hour grueling, just felt like I was in a tree stand type of deal. And how about, we're like, man, it looks like a good mule deer bedding area. We heard something behind me, and I'm like, I just grabbed my bow, and I can't see. Justin turns his head, and he's looking face to face with a mule deer doe.
Yeah, just standing like 30 yards, just pinned us.
Yeah.
I was like, Beau, don't move. And then it just ran. It's
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah, she blew and reminded me of Whitetail Woods there and took off. And we sat rest of the night, never heard another peep, nothing. Came down in the dark, down off that nasty.
That was terrible.
That climb was worse going down than going up.
So right when it gets dark, Beau's like, this climb's going to be a lot quicker than he did last night. And he kind of chuckles a little bit. That was hell. We went through like these rock slides.
Oh, no,
dude.
yeah,
we
we
got
went-
cliffed out one time. We had to turn back and go down.
Yeah, because I'm like, the cliffs are right here, but I think this is a pretty good chute we can go down. Well,
It
it
wasn't.
wasn't. Not a good chute. I'm sliding down and on my hands holding on to these bushes and trees that just had white powder all over us.
Yeah.
We're covered in white powder, and we're going down. We finally get down to the bottom. We still made it down pretty quick.
That was his harvest spot.
And
Yeah.
what's that?
I said that was his harvest spot.
Harvest spot?
Just keep going. Sorry.
Okay. Well, so anyways, we get down to camp that night and cook up food and listen, and no bugles, nothing. I'm like, well, let's try the same spot again. This is now our last morning. So I really only had 3 days to be able to hunt. And this is now fast forward to this morning, and it moved up. We got up there well before it was light and was in position. Well, one thing, I did pick the wrong bench. I was a little bit below where they would have been. We still would have heard them, though. I mean, we were 80 yards off. But,
Right.
Nothing. Worked our way up through, and ended up finding a Miriam's feather. And Miriam's turkey feather, 9,700 feet, which is crazy to me. And we just worked up higher, and just so much sign.
Yeah.
Like, there was so much fresh elk sign and mule deer sign. Jumped another mule deer doe that was bedded out on this point, and then got into where it looked like definitely the elk would be bedding, because it was dark timber, blowdowns all over. The stuff I hate about elk hunting, going through all that stuff. And, we were just going through it and realized that was kind of the end of the trip. But for me, it was, before I get into the last few days of those guys' hunt and let them tell it, when I realized I couldn't go back up and stuff, it was like so demoralizing, like something I've looked forward to this whole time. But at the same time, you can't just be like, oh, all right, well, that sucks, guess we got to quit. Just had to kind of adapt to it. And we kept just saying that we got to adapt.
Yeah, you got to make the best of it.
Got to make the best of it. Got to adapt. And kept trying to keep a positive light on that.
Right.
And it was cool. So one thing I wanted to point out when we had that encounter, one of the things that you'll see if you check out the Spartan Forge app, on there is a thing where you can journal your location. Like, you basically drop a pin, and there's a spot to write all the locations. It logs the weather, it logs all the information. So we put all that stuff there, and to going back, say you go there in 2 years, you can look at, all right, this date, this is what happened at this location. And it was pretty cool to be able to mark all of that. And anyways, after we did that and came out for the last time, went down and packed up camp to go meet these guys. And but in the midst of all this, like, I was just pumped to have that one bugling occasion, because sometimes, I mean, I've been out here where I've spent 14 days hunting elk, and it's taken 7 days to find elk, and then maybe have one encounter like that where in a 3-day span we had a pretty good for Colorado, and we didn't run into any other hunters. It was just an overlooked spot. It was too
And
steep.
people were driving by.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's people driving by in ATVs with bows on the back.
Yep.
You're telling they're hunters. For some reason, they always drive their four-wheeler standing up. like this, looking everywhere as they're driving. And
The turret.
yeah,
Mobile
exactly.
turret.
So we came out and went to get these guys. So talk about your guys' last few days.
So we hiked in there. I can't remember the date again there, but it might have been a Monday. We hiked in after doing a long day with Beau. Got hiked in the next day and went to maybe 300-400 yards past where Beau and Justin set their tents up. Just went through the willows there and went up on the next hillside. And got in there. Beau said he saw a deer. The basins we were hunting were just absolutely just pounded by hunters. I mean, dozens of hunters. Well, maybe not dozens, but over 10 hunters in a basin. And up on the ridge looking at the next basin, it was way too many people. So we're like, yeah, it's not really worth going back in there. Let's hunt these fronts a little bit. Let's hunt these little coves. Let's hunt these little hidden basins.
A couple overlooks, at least what we thought were overlook spots.
So we get in there and we once again started glassing up some bucks. And we're like, here we go. So we glassed up a super cool 3x3, just a giant, I mean, unreal whitetail. But he had a whitetail frame, but he was big. And he just, everything about him was big. His body was big.
Splits?
Nope.
Oh, he was just
Just a straight frame whitetail 3x3.
That's cool.
Really?
Yep. Just G2, G3 and main beam. I mean, just straight down the line. Yep. Eye guards, super just heavy, very mature deer. And my goal was a 4x4. I really wanted a 4x4, not like I really cared, but I saw this buck. I'm like, that's going to work. That's going to be pretty good here. And then I saw a buck that looked identical, and Mason can even say identical to the whitetail I killed this year. Just wide, and it laid out weird. And it just looked like, I'm like, well, it looks like the whitetail I killed this year. I was like, I could probably make that work. And then there's a hard-horn 4x4 with him. There's 6 bucks all in one group. And we glassed them up. And so we walked.
And we were pretty confident where they were. We were the only ones looking at these bucks.
We said that multiple times. We're the only people that can see these deer. We're 100%. There's nobody else that can see these deer from where we were. And we found a couple more groups like that. And we found a lot of deer on those fronts. And we were glassing up 20 deer a day, if not more. We were glassing up a ton of deer. So they kind of hid in these little coves. And that first night, we didn't put any stalks on just because of the timing and stuff.
Well, it is big country where a stalk you're looking at probably 2 hours minimum one way.
Yeah.
So it didn't make sense that evening.
Mm-hmm.
Find the bucks, make a stalk.
And if Mason says it doesn't make sense, it didn't make sense. Because
Yeah.
normally Mason's like, yeah, 4 miles, no big deal. We can get that done.
Yeah, I'm usually a pusher when it comes to making something happen.
So we get up early next morning, hike up to our spot, glass, and didn't glass up the bucks right away. I'm like, shoot, where'd that 3x3 go? And Mason glassed up a nice 4x4, and we're like, okay, we'll watch that bed. And I spot the 3x3 coming around the corner with his 5 buddies, and when you see 6 deer together, you're like, yep, that's them. What are the chances? So we watch them come up, and they bed behind this pier, a rock pier right near the top. Mason's like, all right, go ahead. Like, literally just lets me out of the gate. And I was like, okay, that's a good spot. That's a long hike, but we'll get there. He goes,
and where they bedded, the sun was, it was an east-facing basin, so the sun was just beating on them.
mm-hmm.
And they found a rock that was shaped like a wedge up against the mountain, and the bigger bucks bedded in this wedge. So the goal was at least the plan we made up was to come above them and shoot down off the top of the mountain into this wedge where they're bedded down. And right away, Michael's like, yeah, well, if I shoot way over them, I'll at least have a chance of a ricochet.
I'm known.
I'm like,
Get him from the backside.
Who even thinks about that?
I'm known when I shoot. My heart rate gets 187 watching somebody shoot. You should see what it gets when I'm shooting. It's way high. Like, it's outrageous. So I've shot over a few backs in my life, and I was like, perfect.
But
Got a
this
ricochet
is
rock.
set up to be like the stock, like
This is gonna be killer.
high percentage stock. I was pretty confident with Michael going in there.
So I do my 3-hour hike in, like down, up, over through a swamp, up a valley, cross a rock face, get up in there.
Picture exactly where you're at too.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
where
you
we
were there.
camped.
So I finally get up there. I'm sucking wind. I get up to the top, and I crawl out to the edge because I know where they're going to be. I glass. I'm like, shoot, they're 100. I click them 120 yards, already up feet, and I'm like, huh. Literally, I was late. but I didn't highlight how long it was. I make this stalk. It was a treacherous, grueling stalk. I tracked it on my watch. My heart rate was never below 120, and my average was 132. So it was a hell of a workout for 3 hours.
Yeah, and the whole time I'm watching, again, helpless. I don't know where Michael is. I'm watching these bucks, and then the sun keeps coming up, and the shadows are shifting. These bucks are getting a little shifty, and we had really bad weather that night and strong winds. So I think that they were probably hunkered down most of the night, and they were on their all the bucks we were looking at. They were on their feet for most of the day, even in the sun.
Yeah.
So these bucks get up and they start feeding up the hill, which is going to give Michael an even closer shot. So I'm getting pretty pumped. I'm like, come on, Michael, get there, come on, let's go. And the bucks are feeding up, and they're getting to the point where the rock that Michael's supposed to pop out on, it's going to be like a whitetail, Pennsylvania whitetail tree stand shot, like 25 feet below him. Take your pick, whatever buck you want.
And it was shaping up to be that way. So I get up there, and it wasn't, obviously, because I didn't get one. But I get up there, I'm like, shoot. I'm like, that stinks. I couldn't see where Mason was. So I crawled around to the rock, and I peek up. I sit there, and I'm using the rock to shade me, but I could see the deer peeking around. And I get up on the rock, and I glass Mason. I see Mason looking. I'm like, and like we're both helpless because now the deer are 240 yards down the hill. I glass there like 237.
Yeah, so if
I was 5 minutes late.
if just a little bit quicker, you would have had your pick.
So I come down, and we had a backup deer. So I'm glassing the backup deer. First, I went over to the other basin. I saw, I think it was 9 hunters in the basin. I literally blew out. I had to have blown it out because the way I had to come in, I was like, man, this sucks for those guys. But I went right through the middle, right up over the edge. I'm like, this is what I got to do. And I glassed all those, or a bunch of them. And then put my stalk on, deer didn't shoot, so I looped around to the next basin, looked in, and I saw 4 hunters sitting over there, a couple hunters sitting over there. I was like, there's a dozen hunters in this little, like, we were looking at 2 huge basins. I was like, this is so many people. This is ridiculous. So I grabbed a quick bar, had a cool overlook, ate a quick bar, sent a Snapchat out. I was like, yep, time to get back to it. Literally took a 5-minute break, came back down over, glassed up for our secondary deer. Couldn't find them. I'm like, shoot, where'd these secondary deer? Because I was just going to run around the top and was hoping to drop down. Secondary deer weren't there, so I looped back around, came around the front edge of the hill, and I'm glass. I'm like, okay, I know those deer are going downhill. Mason wanted me to come to this point. If I could get there and they feed down, I'll have a shot. If they don't feed down, I won't have a shot, but I can watch them. And I glass them. I find the 3 doe, they're sitting right in the middle, where like literally right in the throat of what I need to climb up. I'm like, well, if I climb up that, they can't come this way. They're going to run to those deer and blow them out of the country. I still have another day. So, moral of the story, I came down, had a cow elk in range. I saw a cow, or a calf moose at 40 yards, 2x2 mule deer. That was on the way in. I saw that. I could have had a pretty decent stock on that. I just saw a ton of game down in this bottom. This bottom is just filled with sign. There's so much sign there. Finally get back up the hill to where Mason was, and I was smoked. It was a 6-hour hike. My tank was on E. I was beat. We did 70-something miles in 8 days. I was whooped. I got to Mason. I literally just barely made it to him. He had to come be dad and carry my pack the last, like, vertical incline. It was straight up, and I'm like, help, come help me. He's like, no. I'm like, dude, seriously, come help me. So he carried my pack up to the top, the last like stretch, and I lay there. I was just done. He goes, I have 2 more deer bedded. You want to go do them? I'm like, no, I'm done. I was like, I'm smoked. So that was the end of the stalk, and it was super cool. I mean, it was epic stalks, and I couldn't complain. It was what we wanted to do, and we saw a ton of game.
And when did you see the elk?
This morning. Oh, no, that next day we saw a super mega bull. Like, mega bull. Beau's bull, you have to tell him the name.
Oh, yeah, I missed that whole part of the story. Bullzerian.
Yep, so Beau called his bull Bullzerian, and I was dying laughing. So Mason's like, there's elk over there, and I glass him up, get him on my spotter, and I just see this mega bull for Colorado, mega bull. Like, this is a good bull. I was like, holy smokes. Mason's like, I really don't know how to judge him. I'm like, dude, this is what it is. He's like, that's a serious bull. So we chit-chatted about it, ran into the woods, didn't think much of it. The next morning, Mason didn't bring his tripod up. He just was camp slugging. No tripod, free-handed binoculars. 4.5 miles away, we see these elk. I couldn't even see them, and I'm on a tripod. He's like, get your spotter up. They're elk for sure. pull my spotter up. There's 2 herds of elk on 2 different levels, just going crazy.
And we're looking at 4+ miles away.
Yeah, 4.5 miles away. And I'm full zoom on my spotter. I'm on these, and I see this elk again. And this elk was serious. I was like, that is a big elk, and it comes the whole way around. Anytime a cow got out of line, he swooped back around. Anytime one got too far ahead, he ran out ahead. He chased off a couple satellite bulls. We saw bulls running up over the top, down into the valley to be with them. I mean, this was a rut fest, elk fest. I mean, I couldn't put my spotter anywhere.
Fun to watch.
It was epic. And I couldn't put my spotter anywhere and not pick up game. We had coyotes circling the top. I've been on one of my videos. A coyote just runs the rim. Below the coyote are 2 bucks, mule deer bucks. Below the mule deer bucks are just elk running crazy. I was like, how can this even possibly be happening all in one basin? And it was serious. That bull is
What'd you name that bull?
Huey.
Hugh Hefner.
Hugh Hefner. He had all the ladies.
Yeah.
He had them all. So that was Huey. He was running. He had quite the cows.
Yeah, that's why I named the bull that I named Bullzerian. Again, never got eyes on him, so I don't know exactly what size he was, but he was definitely a herd bull. He had all the cows with him, and I was like, Justin, what are we gonna name this bull? And I was trying to think because we had a name for Don Bolio out in Idaho,
Yep.
and we were trying to come up with a name, and I was like, all right, so he's got all the women with him. He's got to have money. I was like, he's like Dan Bilzerian. I was like, he's Bullzerian.
Yep.
And we were just, him and I just all day, we just kept, as we're sitting there for 10 hours along the mountain, jokes of Bullzerian cracked up.
And Beau texted me this on the inReach. I'm like, dude, he's a good poker player. You got to play your cards right. You can't just go all in. Like, I was
Yeah.
like
We had a
giving
good
him
laugh
like,
when he said
yeah, I was
that,
like
yeah.
giving him like Dan Bilzerian, however you say his name.
For some reason, too, when you're on the mountain for days on end and
Stupid stuff is funny.
disconnected and a little bit miserable situations just with weather and stuff, the stupidest things you find so funny you can laugh at all day.
Yeah.
So kind of keeps the morale up.
It definitely keeps the morale
Yeah.
up.
Yeah,
So
Beau
we
was very
saw
proud
some-
of himself for that name.
Oh, yeah. I was practicing my my shots. I'm like, he comes this side. I'm going to draw back and swivel this way. I'm going to do and Justin's just looking at me like, holy cow,
Yeah,
man.
I'm like, dude, pay attention.
Yeah.
I do get a kick out of that because, like, these inReaches are very minimal. They don't work that well, as we found out.
Yeah.
But it's just a cool little way to be like, hey, this is how we're doing.
Yeah,
You're
they're
40
not
miles
meant
away.
to be like full on text back and forth like
It's
a
like a
text
once
message.
or twice a day deal.
Yeah, but then they work great for that. But when you're trying to have full on conversations, sometimes they come in weird orders and everything else. But
We got a chuckle out of it, though. It was super cool to
Yeah.
hear Beau's damn Bullzerian or Bullzerian. I was like, are you shitting me?
yeah, we were cracking up, going, messaging back and forth there, and yeah, I mean, overall, it was such a weird hunt compared to what we had going into it. But that's hunting. You got to roll with the punches and kind of go with it. And that's whole time. There was like a 15-minute window where I was feeling super bad for myself. I'm like, well, this isn't gonna do anything. You just got to try to find elk low, and then we went low, and we're like, there hasn't
gotta
been
go
an
higher.
elk, there hasn't been an elk here since 1977. I'm gonna have to figure something out.
The funniest thing was, like, you were always just walking the line. I was like, what'd your doctor say again? And you were like, whatever, like 10,000 feet. I'm like, what are
8,000
we at?
feet.
8,000. I'm like, what are we at right now? 7,850. I'm like, oh, perfect.
Perfect.
We should be,
We're in.
We should be good. Yeah.
We're in.
Then the next time, like, I got this campsite. It's about 9,000 feet. You're like, I thought you had to be below 8. I'm like, let's just see how it goes.
Yeah. I'll be careful. I'm like, okay.
But that's it. It's they can say what they want. They can put what they want. It's 100%. These watches can tell you what they want. It's 100% how your body feels, how you're reacting to the situation, and you have to be cognizant of the decisions that you're making and don't push yourself. That's
yeah,
the moral
and
of
it does help having a good hunting partner that can, like, I kept looking at Justin, be like, well, be honest, how do I look right now?
I'm like, dude, you look like shit.
Yeah,
Well,
you're
before or
like, I know, I
after
feel bad.
that answer.
Yeah. Yeah, he so that helped, like, me make decisions based off of what he was saying. And I was like, just give it to me straight, exactly what's going on. And like I said, I'd walk 30 feet and I couldn't walk any further, and I have to sit down for 15 minutes. I'm like, this is a long hike.
Justin's
So-
like, you look like shit, but about the same as every other time I see you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I was asking Justin, and I'm like, Justin, relay me what you know and what you see. He goes, well, the hiking, we've gone, he goes, I counted the steps and went 30 steps. I'm like, get him off.
Yeah, I don't think I told you that either.
I was like, you physically can't, like, that is not a well-being. Somebody in that good a shape should make it more than 30 yards.
Yeah,
That's just the way it is.
I started counting steps just so I could see if you were getting worse as we were going higher. And you were. You started off like we'd take a break and you'd go like 70 steps, take another one. And then when we got all the way to the top, you were only doing like 26, 30. And then that's when you were like,
just your
I'm
body
not
shutting
feeling
down.
good.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden I'd get like a boost of energy. And I'm like, I can do this, Justin. I can do this. I just got to make it. I got to make it. And I kept trying to get bullheaded. And then eventually when my brain was just, I couldn't even cook my dinner. I'm like.
It happened after every break.
Yeah.
Like, I need a break. Then we'd stop 15 minutes. And you'd be like, I'm feeling solid. Then we'd walk 40 yards. And you'd be like, nope, got to sit down again.
Yeah.
Well, and I remember even I told Beau this. In New Mexico, I was army crawling back to the tent because my legs literally didn't work. Like, I couldn't hike any further. I'm like, I can't make it, but I gotta. Like, what am I going to do, just sleep under this tree over here? I'm like, well, how'd I get back? Like, my legs aren't working. Like, that's just a bullheaded nature, and that's not what you do. You do not do that.
And I had to think, like, there's a lot more important things in my life than this hunt, and there's going to be other hunts if I allow them to happen. So I just had to kind of bite the bullet there and realize that it is what it is. And I hope other people can learn from it, and that's the important part of telling the story. Again, not to be afraid, is just to be able to recognize it and pay attention to those things.
So the one thing I definitely have to make a point of here is our whole entire summer was planned around a high country hunt. I mean, that's what our whole summer was. And it was get out and scout for 2 days before the season, 2 days to acclimate, 2 days before the season to scout. So that takes 4 days off the front end of the hunt. And then we're going to hunt for about 9 days. We're actually going to hunt high country 9 days. And we only hunted high country 4 days. But we still had an epic hunt. We just rolled with the punches. We said, shit, well, Mason killed one, time to go low. And that's all right. That's what it was. It wasn't like, man, hey, this is, it did stink. And it is hard. And there's times where you have to make these decisions. But this whole summer, all we wanted to do was a high country hunt. We hunted it for 4 days. Beau still got in bulls every day that he was down low. Well, except for the one.
Yeah.
I still stalked on some awesome stalks. I still saw mule deer all 4 of the days. Mason still killed. You got plenty of footage. I mean, you just roll with the punches and deal with what you got. You can't make something out of something that's not there. And if we would have tried to keep pushing in the high country for that, we need to be there for 9, 10 days because this is what we're here to do. First off, you would have been sick in the hospital for good.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have got anything accomplished. And then him and I would have been sitting in the hospital too, and we would have got 2 days, 1 day. We would have got 1 day hunting.
Right.
Instead, we adapted. We listened to how he was feeling. We let it happen. We let it play out. And I still got 3 days in the back end to hunt the high country. If we would have just said, screw this, and just made some pity me conversation here, and we just quit, I would have got 1 day in the high country. And I'm saying this me personally, but that's just, we would have had 1 day to hunt. So we still tripled the amount of time we spent up there.
And Michael came and pulled me aside. He's like, listen, if you need to go home right now, like, we'll do that. You're not ruining my hunt in any way, sort of thing. And I appreciated that. But for me, it's like, I can go sit somewhere down low, even if I physically can't do anything, let these guys have a hunt, and I'm still in Colorado, and I'm still not at work. So
well, that's a conversation I had. Is like, dude, if you can't do this, and that vacation is hard to come by, like, this is where we stand. This is what we feel. Don't put yourself in a terrible situation just to please other people. Like, I know I've been in a situation, and sitting at elevation is not helping you. For me, it wasn't. So I'm like trying to have this. I had this conversation. Beau's like, I'm good at 8,000 feet. I know I'm good. I'm like, all right, good. As long as you can say that. We had one spot in our unit that was 8,000 feet. That was it. Literally one option. That was below the number. So you don't have a lot of options. He goes, I can stay here the rest of the hunt, and I'm fine. That's like, that's all I need to hear. If you're good with that, I'm good with it.
I just kept thinking, like, there's got to be one deer, one elk somewhere that I can find if I just keep, getting after it and just keep going. And yeah, it's definitely a mindset thing 'cause it's freaking hard. Like, it's not easy to wanna do that. And there's, yeah, I don't know. But it all ended up well. The hunt was still good. Yeah, the outcome, Mason killed. That was awesome. He was one that definitely deserved it. And, yeah, I guess we'll just
1 out of 3 odds is not bad.
By the time we start going home, we'll be planning next year's big. Well, you guys are going to South Dakota, which, yeah, that's all I got to say.
YouTube saw it.
YouTube saw what I did, but not the audio version. So, the video version of this podcast will be out on YouTube if Justin gets his ass in gear and gets it all edited beforehand.
Yeah.
No, just joking.
You asked
around.
me about this yesterday if I could do it in time.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
I appreciate that.
On the car ride.
No, we talked about it
Yeah.
beforehand.
Yeah.
No, I just give her shit.
No,
but
but
saying that, like, this whole time we were out here, like, yes, Mason and I have a South Dakota hunt, but all summer, South Dakota was never a talking point. Colorado was plan A.
Yep.
Like, this is what we need to get ready for. This is what we're hunting for. And Mason even said, he goes, man, I kind of forgot we're coming back. Like, the whole thing is Colorado. South Dakota is going to be a super cool hunt. It's going to be super different. It's going to be like a laid-back hunt. Like, all gears were towards this hunt. Like, this is what we were in for. And this is what we put our effort into. So when we got a little bit of a curveball, we scrambled.
yeah.
That's for sure.
And the last thing that I will say on this for anybody that's listening or watching is have those contingencies in place, have backup plans, no matter how much time. In all of our first aid kits, I had printed out emergency numbers. When I needed to find an ER, I've literally pulled out the list from my kit and was like, here's the address I need to go to. This is how
that's a
we
really
do
good
that.
point.
And had everything listed out and point. So then when things fall apart, you're not scrambling because you have a plan on what to do, and you just got to execute it.
We had a Google Docs.
Yeah.
And we all had our own part that we had to fill in. And our Google Docs had butcher, taxidermist, emergency room, urgent care, hotels, gas stations, like key
ice,
points.
everything.
And this is everything that was done beforehand, so there's no questioning, no concern. You don't have Google to look it up. It's on a piece of paper, 8x12. It's printed out. It's there. It's done.
Yep.
And that's very helpful.
Yep, definitely. Well, thanks everyone for listening to this, and congratulations to Mason on his buck, Michael on some epic stocks, and I survived
Bow and Bull's
another
ear.
day. Now I'm looking forward to getting to a tree for a while and come back for Bull's ear in another 5 years.
Very good.
That's right.
All right, thanks guys.